Okay, so I was going through my archives of short stories, trying to figure out what short story I wanted to read for this week's video. And, okay, so I opened up my Google Drive to discover that apparently, and I don't know how, I have no memory of this, there is a short story I apparently wrote on August 30th, 2019 called Wish There Could Be Sparks, and it's basically another story where two friends confess their feelings for one another, apparently. And so I figured I would read that. And to be completely honest, I really don't know what inspired this story, but I guess back then, I guess as to now, since I primarily write romance, a lot of the stories I write are either about friends confessing their romantic feelings for each other, or I don't know, just a lot of my stories center around love and also that topic in general. I've noticed I've written a fair amount of stories like this, so that's what this story is. Again, I don't know what inspired it, but I really hope you enjoy. One last thing I wanted to mention here is, so I guess, one of my, all-time favorite tropes is when friends, become something more and confess their, secret romantic feelings for one another, and so I guess that honestly explains why I write a lot of stories with that premise. But regardless, I really hope it doesn't get tiring, because after all, the purpose of this channel and of doing these narration videos, like I've said many times, is to just share these stories I've written, whether they are past stories written in the last few years or a decade or something, or present written in the last year, 2 years, however many years. But yeah. Also, one last quick little disclaimer, and then I promise I'll be done. If the audio sounds clunky and awkward in some parts, I just want to preface by saying this is my first time reading this story out loud, and this is also a first draft version of the story, so that's why it might sound awkward. The night was young, and love was already starting to blossom between them. Sadie and Madden had just returned to their friend's place after spending a fun night together at the bar. A night filled with way too much karaoke, drinking, and silly shenanigans only pure intoxication could cause, and were now seated side by side on a pair of comfortable gray lounge chairs, where a fire stood crackling in the fireplace before them, while they enjoyed one final celebration surrounded by their closest friends before Stefan's mutual friend, whom both Sadie and Madden knew, birthday bash concluded. Overall, it had been a pretty wild night. But aside from that, it had been one of the best nights Sadie had had in a while, and she was incredibly grateful that she could be in attendance after all, and not have to miss it in favor of her cousin's college graduation party, which had promptly been rescheduled due to another scheduling conflict he, the cousin, had found himself in. However, though, Stefan's birthday bash wasn't the only highlight of Sadie's night. No. There was something more behind it all, something more that was on her mind that she couldn't stop thinking about. This is where her blossoming feelings and attraction to Madden come into the picture. Whilst at the bar, aside from doing the occasional mingling with friends of hers, Madden had stuck by Sadie's side for most of the night, and the two of them seemed to really be hitting it off. At least Sadie thought so. She wasn't so sure about Madden. Sadie had known Madden for a long time and knew in her heart that she harbored romantic feelings for him and that they'd been a part of her for months. She just couldn't figure out how to tell him yet, or if she even should, for the sake of ruining a friendship they'd built over the course of 6 months. God, this is so hard, she thought, as she continued to stare longingly at the bright, crackling fire. If only I could just muster up and tell him. Even if it ruins everything, at least he'll know the truth. He'll know how I truly feel about him, and that's all that matters. Come on, Sadie, just fucking tell him. What's stopping you? What are you waiting for? So, without further hesitation, in that moment, Sadie, with her heart pounding rapidly inside her chest, turned to Madden and opened her mouth, ready to speak. Hey, Madden, But she soon discovered she couldn't do it. Her words stuck to her throat like glue, and her thoughts turned to mush. What the fuck, Sadie? Say something, you bitch. Just fucking tell him. You'll regret it if you won't. Get a grip on yourself, girl. As soon as Madden returned her gaze, all hope was lost. Time and time again, since developing romantic feelings towards him, Sadie found that whenever Madden acknowledged her, butterflies tied her stomach into knots and she felt weak. That gaze, those deep brown eyes, those dimples, that smile, his voice, it all became her weakness. He was her weakness. Motherfucker, Sadie thought, irritably. Madden was now staring at her with a confused expression plastered across his face. Once he realized she had stopped talking, he raised an eyebrow at her. Yes, he asked, his tone smooth but deep. You clearly have something to say, so you might as well do so. There's no need to be shy, especially around me. Sadie's cheeks suddenly grew hot then, and she was about to turn away and give up, but despite her nerves, she decided to be brave and continue on. Are you sure? It's kind of, she hesitated. Kind of what? Madden asked. Oh God, now I've made him curious, she thought nervously. If anything, I hope that doesn't kill the mood. She immediately avoided his gaze and began fidgeting with the bracelet around her left wrist. Just then, and by complete surprise, Madden grabbed her wrist, which forced her to meet his gaze again. Not long afterwards, before she had a chance to truly process what was happening, Madden leaned in closer towards her and kissed her. The kiss sent a shockwave running through her body, combined with a series of mixed emotions. The kiss between them didn't last long, though, as Madden was quick to put an end to it and leave Sadie in an utter daze. Things were silent between them for a few moments as they both stared silently at each other, but then Madden broke the tension. This might sound a bit unprecedented, and I'd understand completely if it is, but I've been looking for a chance all night to bring you closer to me. I just didn't know which moment was the right one. I'm sure, however, that this moment seems to finally be the one I was seeking. Sadie continued to stare at him in a state of shock, unable to form the correct words to say to him. No witty reply came to her, no smooth statement to mirror his. Nothing. Just nothing. Only silence. Perhaps that was her nerves cock-blocking her, or the copious amounts of alcohol she'd consumed earlier. Either way, Sadie wasn't sure, but she still remained speechless and instead opted to let this beautiful man continue talking. In fact, I've actually been wondering if, once this party blows over, you and I could go somewhere alone for a fun night to ourselves. Just us. No one else would be in attendance. As Madden said those words, a smile spread across his face, which turned Sadie into even more of a mess. She was still in such a state of shock that the only thing she could do was smile back at him and nod her head. After all, What was a girl to say when a man she'd been crushing on over for months kissed her and then told her he wanted to spend some more time alone together with just her? While she didn't do anything to verbalize it, Madden's suggestion had made her night, and she wondered if this meant whether he felt the same way about her that she did about him. Only time would tell. Until then, she just had to wait and see. So wait, she did. The party came to an end 2 hours later, and after saying farewell to Stefan and wishing him a happy birthday, Sadie and Madden left together. Soon, before she knew it, they were in his car heading to his apartment in the heart of downtown Santa Barbara. When they finally got to his complex and were inside his apartment doorway, that is where things took an unexpected turn and escalated further between them. Before she knew it, Sadie and Madden were making out passionately, and they soon began removing one another's clothing until there was none left on them. The tension between them soon intensified when she found herself in his bed, still kissing him, alongside doing things with him she never imagined herself partaking in so quickly. Their bodies soon became one with each other, and to Sadie, all that mattered in that moment was Madden. The feel of his lips on hers, his hands pinning her down to the bed, the pleasure she felt as he began exploring her body intimately. It was all so surreal and lovely nonetheless, and Sadie found herself enjoying every moment of it. Sadie awoke to sunlight peeking through the blinds. I don't even remember coming home last night, she thought. How drunk must I have been to skip over something like that? When she finally opened her eyes, however, she was met with quite an interesting surprise. The curtains hanging off the windows weren't ones she recalled seeing. Panicked, she surveyed the room around her. The bed she was currently in wasn't hers either. Hell, come to think of it, the entire room was different. Now panic truly started eating her alive as a string of worried thoughts filled her head. Where the fuck am I? How did I end up here? Then, suddenly, her gaze fell to a person in bed beside her who was shirtless and out cold. Madden. The duvet cover didn't conceal him completely. Although he was currently laying on his side, his bare back was still visible to her, as was his arm cropped underneath him, and how sleep had messed with his curly black hair. Upon seeing him laying in bed beside her, vague memories from last night clicked into place inside her brain. Oh shit, that's right, she thought, as her panic ebbed away. I slept with Madden. Now I'm starting to remember how last night went. It all made sense to her, and although she couldn't envision the details with complete clarity, she knew they existed and that they were enough to go off of for her to make sense of everything. The bar, Stefan's birthday party, her ruined confession, the kiss, his car, the intimate moments they shared together. This was his apartment, she realized. That's why nothing in here looks familiar. Thinking quickly, she carefully got out of bed and dressed herself in last night's attire: a black lace bra, green underwear, a red cropped top, and high-waisted jeans. She surveyed the room one last time. As sad as I am to admit this, I should probably go, she thought. No, I most definitely should go. Regardless of how much I like Madden, I want to avoid making things more awkward between us. Hell, I don't even know what the state of our relationship is, seeing what we got up to late last night. Sadie quickly brushed the thought away and prepared to head for the door. But just as she was about to leave, she was startled by the sound of rustling behind her and turned to see Madden sitting with his feet dangling off the side of the bed, glaring at her with an apologetic expression. He cleared his throat and spoke. Sadie, before you say anything, before you get anything twisted, just know that I didn't intentionally try to lead you on last night. I understand if you're unsure about how to make sense of all of this, but I just want you to know the truth from me first before you walk away. Oh, Sadie thought. Well, I wasn't expecting this, that's for sure. With that, Sadie kept silent and listened as Madden continued talking. Look, I'm sorry about last night. I'm sorry how things escalated between us. The kiss, driving you here, being intimate with you. I honestly didn't know what I was thinking, and it was foolish of me to allow alcohol and the fact that I was drunk dictate my actions. God damn it, Sadie. I am so sorry. She let him keep talking. I understand that you had something very important you had to tell me, but I wouldn't listen, and for that I'm also sorry. But the thing I'm the most sorry for is not only leading you on, but giving you the wrong impression simply because I led you on. Look, we've been friends for a few months now, and I don't see you as anything other than that. You're just a friend to me, Sadie, and a really good one at that, and I want us to remain that way for however long we see fit. My point is that I don't harbor romantic feelings towards you, and I don't want the fact that we hooked up last night to put a damper on the friendship we built. He took a slight pause before continuing. I just hope you can understand my reasoning here, and please know that I'd never intentionally try to hurt you or play mind games with you. It's just, I've had a really difficult year, and getting over my recent breakup with my ex-fiance hasn't been the easiest of scenarios to overcome. God, I don't know why I thought having sex with one of my closest friends would be a good idea to try and rid my thoughts of her. Clearly it didn't work, but it was also incredibly foolish of me to hope that it would. Madden's voice trailed off, and he covered his face with his hands, looking defeated. Motherfucker, I screwed everything up, didn't I? I always managed to make such an ass of myself. Silence rose between them and stayed that way for what felt like an eternity. Finally, for the first time in a while, Sadie ended up being the one to break the tension between them. Well, I understand the validity behind your point, Madden. I think I'd better go. Hearing this, Madden lifted his face from his hands and glared at her again. I'm not going to stop you if that's what you choose to do. Hell, I don't even blame you. But before you do, would you mind telling me whatever was going on in your mind last night? Sadie hesitated as her cheeks grew hot again. Should I? She thought, despite the fact that I was so adamant about doing so last night. Now that I know how he truly feels, I no longer feel as though it would be wise. What purpose would it serve anyway? It would only make things more awkward. Coming to terms with herself, Sadie ultimately decided against it and figured it was for the best if she kept it to herself. Would she ever tell him? She wasn't sure at the moment, and right then she wondered if she ever would, especially when he laid out his truth so clearly. Just as she'd feared, her feelings weren't reciprocated. Right then, she too felt foolish, but for an entirely different reason than he did. Why on earth did she ever think her feelings would be reciprocated? Especially after the mess Madden's been through with calling off a relationship with a woman he was clearly very and still is madly in love with, who cheated on him. However, despite this, Sadie wasn't angry in that moment. She only felt stupid and foolish. She broke the silence between them. On second thought, it's not important, she replied. It genuinely doesn't matter. Look, I really better go. Just then, Madden stood up from the bed and hastily got dressed. But how are you going to get home? I'm the one who drove us both here. You can't return to your place without a car. Sadie sighed. Then I'll just order an Uber to drive me home. It'll be alright, Madden, I promise. I can take care of this myself. I appreciate your consideration. But I truly am alright. I know how to take it from here. Without hesitation, Sadie turned and left Madden's apartment without looking back or saying another word. She did, however, stick to her promise and ordered an Uber to take her back to her apartment on the other side of town. She'd worry about retrieving her car from Stefan's later, and as she was on the drive home, she desperately tried to avoid thinking about where her friendship with Madden stood now. because for the time being, she was unsure. But one thing was certain in her mind, though. She wasn't going to let last night affect the friendship she built with him. Sure, his rejection later on stung her slightly, and she knew she'd get over it with time. For now, she was only focusing on the moment. She'd worry about the future later. Love really is a mysterious thing, she reminded herself, regardless of if it's acknowledged or not. Sometimes letting go is the best thing a person can do, and with time, Sadie knew in her heart that she'd be able to let go too.